Hey guys, let me know what you think by liking and commenting, and it really helps me and this channel out when you subscribe, so please click that button. Thanks a bunch. Hey everybody, today I'm going to be converting this older Marklin, it's just an analog AC locomotive with a large commutator motor into DCC. Hopefully this will help you out if you're trying to do the same thing. In order to get it going, we first pull the screw out of the bottom here. Twist, 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 get that out of there. That's step one, and like on a lot of locomotives, if you want to get it apart, you got to pull the couplers. Those are held in with these flathead screws, one for each end. This is the front. By the way, Marklin locomotives, the grinder slash slider is almost always the front of the locomotive. So let's go ahead and get this screw out. And now we'll pop the one on the rear out. Let's get this one here. And then once we get these couplers off, the top should slide off. All right, with that one out, we should be able to, after we pull the coupler here, we should be able to just kind of slide this off. There we go. It's in two pieces now. If you're not familiar with Marklin, the analog ones went on AC, much like Lionel. And what you have here, you've got the motor in the back, and this is actually a mechanical reversing switch. It's kind of a work of art, actually. It would send a pulse down the line, and that would activate this switch, which would actually throw forward, and it would actually manually articulate this reversing switch. It's really neat. In this particular case, there's a screw on the side of it. On the engineer's side, just unscrew that, and things should start coming apart. You can ditch a lot of these wires too, so let's get that out of there. What's really nice about the MY class is that it's effectively an export version of an export version of an F unit made by EMD. Thanks to that, it uses an EMD 567 motor, and because of that, you can use a Soundtraxx Econami for diesel decoder. Now, the horn will quite be right. There's a closer horn than the default one, and I'm going to use that. But this is close enough for me, and it makes things pretty cheap. So I would suggest to go this route if you have a chance. This is going to be a pretty easy install. Basically, the right side, or the engineer's side, is coming off of the slider, and the conductor's side, or the left side, is going to come off of the frame. The 567, in fact, is the default, so we don't even have to change anything there. I think it's just going to be this horn that we've got to switch out. And I think I used the Wabco A2. I don't know. Select the one that you think sounds closest. All right, I went ahead and soldered in some things, including the lights and the speakers, and then I've used dry tack to just stick this in here for now. This isn't how it's going to stay, but I need to mock it up to make sure that it'll clear the shell. The large commutator replace kit you need is 60944. This is the one that just doesn't work well with the rectifier technique that I made a video on earlier. For a lot of reasons, it's better in this particular case to go ahead and buy the refit kit. And what we need to do on this particular model and several other older ones like it is to pop out this little end plate. It's what's clamping the rear truck, and it'll clamp the front one in too, but we don't really need to remove that one. We just need to remove this rear one. And once you remove that plate, you'll be able to pull the rear truck and motor assembly out, so that's no problem. And then go ahead and take off the plate. All right, we just pull the whole thing out, and what we need to do is to check the commutator to see how many gears it has. So there's 2, and we want to make sure to get the right one. So in this case, we count them up and find 8. So that's fine. In this kit, there'll be one with 8. All right, you want to get everything out. Get everything out here, and first we want to get the permanent magnet out. There we go. And we want to replace the electromagnet with this permanent magnet. I'm going to go ahead and pull out the assembly here and figure out which one of these has 8. And the one on the left looks like it's going to have 8. 1, 2, 6, 7, yep, that's the one that we need. You can turn the other one into a Christmas ornament or something like that, or I don't know. You could theoretically use it in another application, so, well, I just decided to throw away. What the heck. On mine, I just put a very small amount of Teflon, was it PTFE or PFTE grease on the end of, okay, well, it's probably going to be easier to put this in there first and then put the permanent magnet back over the top of it and make sure it spins freely. And this actually was so new, it was seized the first time. You don't see it, but I actually had to clean everything. So we'll get this in there. Come on, you're making me look like a fool here. Come on, get in there. Get in there. Okay, there it goes. It's inside now. All right, so as long as we know we've got that in there, again, it's going to be a little bit hard to spin with both because the permanent magnet's going to actually put it's going to make it a little bit harder to spin. So I'm pretty sure we're okay here, though, from what I can tell. Now that's done, we can put the retention plate over the top of it. And if you look, there's really only one that makes sense. It's the one that looks like the one that came out of there to begin with. So that's the one that we'll use. It's this top one. I always take out this capacitor. It's just unnecessary for DCC usage. You can just pop it out of there. I probably should be a little bit more elegant than this, but we'll go ahead and just cut it out. All right, perfecto magico, it's out of there. Again, just like before, just gonna put a little bit of Teflon grease on here. Out of all the brands I've tried, I like Super Smooth the best. It just seems to be formulated better for model railroad. Now, you don't want to get any of it on the commutator, just on the end. This might help if I grab the correct plate, and all you have to do is, if everything's in there properly, it'll pretty much line up. You may have to finagle it a little bit like I'm doing here. Okay, we'll get that. Yeah, come on, get in there. There we go. So everything's fine. Go ahead and spin it, but be really careful. If it resists, you don't want to spin it too hard because it may break the wheels free from the axles. But then again, if you're having to spin it that hard, you probably got something wrong. So you probably want to go ahead and take it apart again and see if you can figure out what the issue is. Probably some gunk on the gears, something similar to that. All right, let's get the two brushes out of here. And now it's the brushes. It doesn't matter which one you use on which side, but it does matter which way you insert them into the little square holes. So let me show you real quick. If you look, one side of the brush is squared off and the other side has this really slight, concave surface. That's the one that's going to go up against the commutator. You want to make sure to get that in correctly so that you have to think about how that fits in there. But the easy way to tell is actually the other side will have a little slot on it. See it here? The brush retaining spring is going to fit into that slot, and it's going to fit into it vertically like this. So that's how you also know which way to put this in. If you see here, this thing is actually the spring that is going to go into that slot. Hopefully that makes sense. And if you think about that, it'll fit vertically. The actual brush fits into this pocket here. So let's go ahead and do that. You have to make sure the spring, though, is out of the pockets. If it's not, use your tweezers or use something else and pull the spring out and just set it on top of the pocket. If you look here, I'm going to put the brush down into there. And again, that slot is going to be vertical so that the spring can fit down. See, it should just drop right in there. If it's way too tight or something, pull it out because you don't want to crack the brush. So see, once you do that, just flip the spring into that slot and that one's all done. All right, and you're going to want to do that on the other side as well. Again, make sure the little spring retainer is in there, and now we want to go ahead and do the same thing to the other side. So again, figure out how to make sure that that little slot is vertical and towards the outside, and that way you know the side that fits onto the commutator is correct. Just slot, there it goes, slot it down in there. Again, it should drop right in. If it's difficult to go in, you may need to carefully widen that pocket, but don't force it because it'll crack or shatter the graphite or whatever this brush is made out of. You really, really don't want to do that. Same thing here. The spring retainer goes into the slot. And we've got ourselves pretty much a completed assembly. Everything looks pretty good. All right, let's go ahead and put everything back together. Remember, this motor assembly is going to go back in, and then it needs to fit on top of these little guides here. Sometimes it could be a little bit finicky to get back in there. And once you've done that, put the retaining post back in. And this also held the light bulb, but I'm just going to replace the original light bulb with LEDs, so you don't see that in there anymore. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to feed that LED back through the hole, and really don't need to do much more with it than that, because it'll pretty much stay in there on its own. And then you just kind of wrap this wire around the outside so that the motor assembly can spin, the whole truck motor assembly can rotate around fine. So put this outer retaining clip on, which also doubles as the bogie details. Plop that back on there. And at the moment, you can put one side coupler on if you want, but you can't put both on. If you want to leave them both off, that's fine too, but you can only put one side on. Otherwise, you won't be able to get the chassis back into the shell. So yeah, it's up to you. All right, that looks plenty good. I've got that one plopped in there, and what we're going to do now is I'm going to show you where all the wires go. All right, so the first one that you need is the actual, what would be the conductor side, and that's the black that goes into the left side of the decoder. The first motor post is the corresponding one, so this is going to get the gray or the motor minus wire. And by the way, you can solder these wires directly to where the capacitor was. It's convenient since it has a glob of solder on it already. The next post to the left is where the motor positive or the orange goes. Again, just solder. You can just tin the wire and solder it right onto that glob. And then the red from the grinder is going to go into the engineer's side. All right, that's done. I didn't do a very good job of choosing the correct length wire, but it's okay. It's just prototyping. I'm pretty sure that I'm going to have to move this backwards anyway, so I don't think it'll be a problem. In this particular case, I used the thickest wires. I think I just had them lying around, but it's okay so as long as the motor truck assembly rotates fine. Looks like it is, so I think we're in really good shape here. Again, sorry about the dry tack. I'll eventually use double-sided tape to hold this down as soon as I know how it's going to fit in there. Right now I don't know, so I've got to prototype it first. Let's go ahead and give it a try. Turn this on here and see if it goes. And there we go. And we'll button this back up again. You can just leave one coupler on, and then the other side will slot in here. Put on the base, put back on that screw, and then just put all this back together. Get this front coupler in. And by the way, I did have to kind of switch where that decoder sat, and I had to put double-sided tape on it so it'll stay in there exactly the way I like, but it's all together and it works really well. One thing I noticed about this model is I think because it has such a huge magnesium die-cast shell, it sounds really good. A lot of times when I put speakers into plastic models or even some die-cast models, they sound kind of hollow and tinny. This is probably the best sounding sound install that I've done. And I think it's all due to the material and to the shape. I hope that helps you. If it did, let me know. Like this video and subscribe if you want more stuff like this. I'll put a running video up of this here in the next couple days. Like always, I wish you the best, and particularly I wish you happy model railroading. Hey, take care, and I will talk to you next time. See you later.